It does not mean she loved her son any less if she ever told a witness, my son is weird. And part of what made me realize I could be in Mrs. Crumbley's shoes is I have sent texts to my husband saying, our daughter is a psycho today. On the way to school last week, she's crying. She doesn't have people to sit with at lunch. I texted him, she's a nutcase. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle this. I don't have time for this. My other daughter is complaining about her lights flickering in her room. I texted my husband, this sounds like a case. The start of a case. My husband works for my office. He's actually my office manager, so he knows about the case. He went in her room and figured out in 5 minutes it's because when she flips her blow dryer on, one of our plugs makes the lights flicker. So this ghost that you would read about in my text messages, which by the way I did not respond to despite the fact that it's on our 6-person group chat, would be taken out of context and make me look like I don't really care that my daughter is crazy. I also got text one day, we have no food in our house, I am absolutely starving, you are the worst mother ever. And you know what I did? I ignored it. She was mad we didn't have the right kind of chicken ramen. When we have 85, I like the number 85, when we have 4 other flavors of ramen, and there's about 100 other things she can eat, and I knew she's not going to starve to death, but taken out of context, it makes me look like a neglectful mother. But if you know all the circumstances, and you know the relationship I have with my daughter, I knew it was an overdramatic, stupid point. So when you see messages from Mrs. Crumbley's son saying, will you at least call back? Those are so out of context. And when I'm driving home from court every day, I'm getting messages, will you at least call back? And I don't, because I know what they want is for me to run through the McDonald's drive-thru and bring everyone a Coke. I do stop and get myself a Coke, but I am not getting a round of drinks every day for everyone, and I've realized it's easier to not answer the phone. So you can find reasonable doubt from the context that the defense did actually provide. And when Mrs. Crumbley got on the stand and explained to you her understanding of ghosts and dishes flying and laundry flying, that is evidence. And that is something that can create reasonable doubt to hear what was really going on. Even if you believe the prosecution's dates about what was going on, it's not strong evidence, it's very misleading, and I'm going to go through what it does show. There are 3 sets of dates involving Mrs. Crumbley, all from March of 2021. The first time is March 8th and 9th. They introduced exhibits, including text messages on the 8th, where Mrs. Crumbley starts off asking, is he home yet? Is he home yet? I don't want him to do anything stupid. I'm sure you all remember those. Then they introduced evidence on March 9th that she went to the barn that day with her husband on the 9th. Then they introduced evidence, and I will give them credit, they put together quite a case, although it's really not important, that there was a picture of the horse taken at the barn that day, that the data supports there was a picture of the horse taken at the barn that day, and that there was GPS tracking information supporting that she was at the barn that day. Okay, fine. So on March 8th and 9th, there's concern that the shooter, Mrs. Crumbley's son, is making weird comments, and on the 9th, she goes to the barn and she takes some horse pictures. That's all that shows. Pretty minimal. Next, they went to March 16th through 19th, which was broken up into a million exhibits that, quite frankly, were out of order, threw me off my game, helped create these beautiful TikToks, and I'm going to tell you what they show. Now, these ended up all being admitted as exhibits, but I'm going to go in order of what they show. there was a text thread in Exhibit 85, which if you want to look at it, you can, where Jennifer Crumbley said, "I'm going to get drunk and ride my horse." This was on March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. A lot of people have a cocktail on St. Patrick's Day. That does not make her a mother that would be negligent or grossly negligent to her child. There's text messages from the day before where Mrs. Crumbley's son is saying some things about, "Now the house is haunted. Some weird shit just happened, now I'm scared. I got some videos, a picture of a demon. It's throwing bowls. I'm not joking, it fucked up the kitchen. I'm going outside for a while. Can you at least text back?" On that day, Mrs. Crumbley didn't text back, but their own exhibit, okay, which is Exhibit 83, so the numbers do bounce around, so we go from 85 to 86 to 83, show that within an hour of the shooter making these ghost comments, she did call him. Specifically, she called him back at 7:24, and they had a 19-second phone call. If it was 19 seconds, it most likely was, "I'm on my way home, we'll talk when I get home." So then the state, in order to make it seem like they've really got some proof here, they admitted exhibits 87, which show on the 17th, on St. Patrick's Day, James was on a horse. They showed People's Exhibit 88, confirming the metadata that James was on a horse. They showed a picture, 89, of Jennifer on a horse that day. Metadata to prove she's on the horse that day. Another picture, number 91, of James on the horse, a different picture. The metadata to prove James is on the horse. A picture of Jennifer with her horse in Exhibit 93. And again, the metadata to support the picture was taken out at the barn and sent, and that these people talked about these horses. Okay, so fine. That's on the 17th of March. You're going to have access to all this evidence if you want to see it. Then they introduced exhibit number 86, which is where their son says the house is haunted. This is on the 17th. This is the day where he says, "Can you text back?" This is the day where I already showed you the exhibit. She called him. She didn't text back, but she called him. And then they show a couple texts from a few days later on the 19th, where it's obvious from the messages the Crumbleys had had an argument with their son the night before. He was upset to have his phone and things taken away. That Jennifer Crumbley gave him a melatonin to go to sleep. She should have only given him a half. It's in the messages, but she gave him the whole thing. And it knocked him out, and he slept in their bed that night. And when he woke up the next morning, James described him in the text messages as he woke up looking like he had way too much to drink last night, complaining about a headache. Jennifer says, well, he was really worked up and out of control, so I can see why, talking about his behavior during the fight. All I know, Jennifer says, he needs to eat, go to work hard, not complain, and he can get his stuff back. She testified that getting his stuff taken away is his trigger. It's what makes him get upset. She says, you respond and I didn't get it. James says, Jesus, yes. He said, let me ask you a question. Why am I in your room? That's when they talk about the melatonin. She says, oh my God. James says, I really thought you were giving him a Xanax last night. Jennifer says, does he seem better? No, melatonin. James says, I know. So obviously he's joking. Jennifer writes, but he hasn't had one before, so I should have only given him a half. James writes, well, he's doing his school, says his head's hurt, so he took Tylenol. Jennifer asks, is he okay to work? James says, yeah. Does he remember what he did? James finally says, dude, I'm working. I'm on a demo right now. I haven't talked to him. He's doing school. And that's really the extent of the conversation. So fine. So one day, they get in an argument. And I'll tell you what, those kind of arguments in a heartbeat could have me sitting in her chair.